Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the City of Farmers Branch regular City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, August 16th, 2022. The time is 6:03 p.m. We will begin with our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilmember Williams tonight.
Please stand. Let us pray silently together, each of us according to our individual beliefs, as we gather here today as members of Farmers Branch City Council. We pray that we are ever mindful of the opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community. Keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world while being ever mindful of those in the world who are suffering. Let us always speak words of truth and understanding, remembering that as leaders in our communities that we are charged to do so. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Next is the City Manager's report on items of community interest. Mr. Land.
What do you want our city to look like in the next 20 years? The comprehensive plan is a guidebook for just that. It serves as a navigational tool to determine which projects are best aligned with the community's vision. Please take the online survey to help shape the plan. Just go to farmersbranchtx.gov/cityvision. Water is precious and we need to conserve as much as possible. So only water in the morning, only water twice per week, and check your sprinkler heads for leaks and accuracy. Although we currently have no mandatory water restrictions, these practices will help protect your lawn and your household budget from wasteful watering. Want to stop the briefing newspaper from being thrown at your lawn? Just contact the Dallas Morning News at 214-977-8383. You can celebrate the new year on Saturday, August 20th by bringing out the family for a free fun evening at the Farmers Branch Historical Park. It's another family night in the park with fun attractions and amusement rides. The Graceland Ninjas will perform with food and drinks for sale, plus the animated hit movie, Sing 2. Farmers Branch recently ranked near the top in a national survey of the best suburbs for singles. Robert, did you know that? That's according to the team at Home Advisor, a digital marketplace for homeowners. They use factors such as gyms, coffee shops, and jobs growth rate. Turns out Farmers Branch is number 2, right behind Kyle, Texas, and ahead of Fort Mill, South Carolina. You can sign up for City e-News at farmersbranchtx.gov. Mayor, that concludes the City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Land. Next is citizen comments. There's a 3-minute time limit for each citizen to speak. Anyone wishing to speak shall be courteous and cordial. No disparaging or inflammatory remarks directed at any member of City Council or staff will be allowed. We have a number of people signed up to speak tonight. First up is Jake Geigel.
Howdy. Jake Geigel, 2905 Bergen Lane. I just would like to approach the council, I think, with the upcoming budget review and just looking at that, I do think that there should be consideration, especially on the property tax items, that those should be just clearly and transparently given back rather than through back channels or through budget surpluses. I think that there's reason that there are surpluses and that those should be allocated to future projects as well as for looking towards what we need to be doing in those areas. So specifically water and sewage, I think that, from talking to those areas that there are reasons that there's surpluses and that there are upcoming large expenses. And so I think that because of that, I think that we should be giving those tax dollars back directly and just seeing a straight tax reduction in our property taxes rather than through other means. So I appreciate the representation. Hopefully I'll listen to people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Chris Geigel.
Chris Geigel, 3426 Lake Country Court. And I wanted to speak about the city budget and property taxes, water rates. As you all should be well aware, as we are, cost of virtually everything is going up. Electricity, food, property taxes, water bills. The city has excess reserves in the general fund. It keeps going up. Excess reserves in our water fund. And clearly, there's a need for a reduction in the property tax rate, not a reduction, small reduction in water rates for 1 year. I've got firsthand knowledge and experience with the hardships that residents are experiencing. Maybe you guys aren't, but we deliver food weekly to Farmers Branch residents, free food. And seeing the elderly, seeing those that are just trying to make a living, that don't have their air conditioning on, relief is needed. And that can be through property tax actual reductions. Since our property values are going up, it can be through water bills going down since we've got excess reserves. I think it's problematic that we've got so much money that we're looking at vanity projects like the Goya Park, the Warren Good Park remodel with the neon sign, regardless if a bulk of that's federal money. There's increased cost, there's maintenance cost. Talking about the road diet, which is taking money and funds to reduce capacity, which increases environmental damage because we use our dump and we use that in a way that's not beneficial. And I think the fact that council is even talking about those things is just arrogant. I don't think you've got the hand on the pulse of what real people are dealing with, the elderly, disabled, those that are just trying to make ends meet. And so I would ask you guys to strongly reconsider the things that you're looking at and be more sympathetic and try to help people have relief because it's needed. And when we're looking at projects, we're trying to find ways to spend money. I think it's insensitive. And so I would ask y'all to do that, to take it seriously and to represent the people, the citizens, the people that put you here. And David, you're in our subdivision, and I've asked for your support, and I haven't heard back, but I would like you to do that. You represent us, and it's important. And this isn't just for me, this is for people I'm seeing weekly, and it's heartbreaking. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Mike Harrison.
I'll pass on citizen comments.
Oh, okay. Next up is Terry Lynn.
Terry Lynn, 13215 George Street, Farmers Branch. Council, thank you. While you plan to take action tonight to set a maximum tax rate, I would hope that you would seriously consider being honest and truly transparent with the residents of the city by lowering the tax rate 5 cents, as you have alluded to, in the most roundabout way. After listening to the budget retreat last week, there seems to be a lot of confusion among residents as to the truthfulness of the argument presented by the finance director. A one-time credit of $131 to residents on their water bill does not, in any form or fashion, equate to a 5-cent tax rate reduction. I believe that even implying so is not only misleading but irresponsible. If residents, including businesses, have overpaid on water bills, then refund us our money, plain and simple. If you wish to use our overpayment for upgrading our water and sewer system, then let us know that and present a plan. But to say that a one-time credit of $131 is the same as a 5-cent tax rate reduction is a total fabrication. So let's put it in more tangible terms. A property valued at $350,000 would pay $2,061 at the current rate of 0.589 cents. Lowering the tax rate 5 cents to 0.539, the same property would pay $1,886. That's a difference or a savings of $175, not $131. A $550,000 house or property would save $275 at the new tax rate, not $131. And finally, a property valued at $900,000 would save $450 at the new lower rate, not $131. So, generally speaking, To propose a budget that includes an almost 20% increase in spending at this time is not being fiscally responsible. Last week, the finance director said she thought that the bad times were over and things were looking good. See the headline on the front of last Thursday's Dallas Morning News. DFW worse off than U.S. Rising energy costs, prices for everything drive continued stress. This is exactly what we're talking about. Many families and residents in Farmers Branch are stressed. Many are not as well off as some of us others, and they're having trouble paying their bills and making ends meet. So where is their tax break? Other cities are lowering their tax rates. That is what people understand, not a one-time credit on their water bill. Additionally, paying for frontline police and fire is what we have to do. It's our insurance to make sure that we are a safe and well-protected community. That should be first and foremost in the budget. Figure out how to make 20-year retirement work, but don't necessarily expect the taxpayers to pay for it. Mayor, may I have like 15 more seconds?
10 seconds.
Let's take care of our infrastructure needs and make sure our current assets, such as creeks, parks, medians, and the like, are well maintained before we start adding wish list items like a barn or other items. You were elected to be physically responsible stewards of our money. That requires you to dig deep and ask tough questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is Joseph Regel.
Joseph Regal at 13647 Greystone Drive in Farmers Branch here. And I am also a senior citizen, so a lot of what you're saying will impact me. Just a PR suggestion. It was proposed to maybe decrease that tax rate from 58.9 to 53.9. It would amount to maybe $4 million with fewer revenues. Well, what would you be cutting as far as expenses? See, sell us, the public, the citizens here, that if we decrease that, there's $4 million. Well, these are the expenses, and you just list them out. This is what would go. And you'd probably find us much more welcoming the fact that you are going to keep the 58.9. The other thing is that maybe give us 2 cents instead of the 5. It doesn't have to be all 5 cents, but, do a compromise. 2 cents would be like $1.6 million. I'm all in favor of emergency funds, but it sounds like we have emergency funds for the emergency funds with all the funds that we've got. That maybe do a little bit less there, cut some things, or defer some expenses into phase 1, phase 2. Anyway, there'll be a way to give back to the citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Harold Freilich.
Harold Freilich, 13831 Braemar Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to let the citizens come up here and speak. I'd like to reiterate that I support everything that everybody else has said, and I don't want to have to repeat the same thing, but I do have, I want to make a couple comments about the budget. 10 years ago, our taxable property in this city was $4 billion. Now it's over $8 billion. We have not had a tax rate decrease commensurate to our taxable base going up 100%, which theoretically that one should balance out the other one. And I just wanted to point that out to the citizens because we've been successful. We planned for the city to grow, and it has. What happened to all the money we've collected? Well, we've had a lot of special projects. Those have already been mentioned, but the one that piqued my interest during the budget hearings was setting aside money so that we could overfund the pension plan to move the retirement from 25 years to 20 years. Let me tell you, if you have not had an actuarial study done, you have no idea what kind of liability you may or may not be incurring upon the city of Farmers Branch and the taxpayers. Get a consultant. Doesn't matter if it takes 4 or 5 months. Let them do an independent actuarial study before you make any decisions about the pension plan. CYA, and it's yours, not mine. That's one thing you need to do before that. So that was the main point I wanted to see. I wanted to reiterate a little bit about people are having a tough time with gasoline, utility bills, grocery store. My cottage cheese has gone up at Kroger's from $1.89 to $2.99 in about 2 months. Everybody is paying those issues, and I know you guys are too. The easy way to do this budget, city manager, bring me back a budget that's 5 cents cut in the tax rate or 7 cents or whatever you decide. We're collecting way too much money. He is too smart not to figure out a better budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is David Silver.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen. First thing I want to do is 40 years ago next week, I met Jeff Brady for the first time. And I want to compliment the hiring of Jeff and his work as communications person for the city of Farmers Branch. Thank you for such a good job, Jeff. Why did I say that? He communicates with me. Once a week, I get an email telling us what's going on. It comes on Thursday, is that right? Once a month in my water bill, I get a branch review. Pretty sure that comes from Mr. Brady. This past time, we got this online survey from Mr. Land on the visioning survey. I just took it before I came over here, by the way. The only communication I ever get from any of y'all, you're all guilty, okay, is from Terry Lynn. That's it. That's the only way that I get information from the city of Farmers Branch, okay? I knew about the meeting tonight, but had he not sent me the email yesterday, I would not have been aware of what's going on, what other people have spoken about. Ms. Williams, you're my council member, you're my neighbor. I could, with my bad shoulder, I could almost throw a ball and hit your house, okay? Communicate with us, please. Please let us know what's going on. Terry, thank you. Mr. Jackson, thank you for creating that email and doing the research for that. I do appreciate it. Most everybody's talked about everything else. What I want to know is, with this redistricting thing, I am in District 3. If map number 7 goes through, then everything on the west side of the freeway are apartments. Is that correct?
Citizen comments.
I can't ask that question.
We can't respond.
You can't answer. Okay. I believe, and I could be wrong, but everything on the west side of the freeway are going to be apartments. Everything on the east side of the freeway are going to be homes. I have a real issue with property owners, those of us who own our homes, not having the same, this is my feeling, the same respect that those who are renters have. And I'm tired of it. I really am tired of it, and I want y'all to do something about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next up is Candace Adams.
Candace Adams, 3521 Pebble Beach Drive. I would like to talk to you all about the tax increase or the tax decrease that we would like to have. I want you all to know that we are hurting. I lost my job, I had a car wreck, medical bills, da 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 da. Everybody else has got similar things happening. And we really and truly need to put that first and foremost before spending money on a neon sign or doing frivolous things that do not add to the value of each resident, okay? The other thing that we need to talk about is our sewers, okay? My home is the same age as the sewers that we have in the city, okay? We're having issues. Everybody else is having plumbing issues. We really need to put that infrastructure first before we have a huge blowout, and then it's going to cost all of our rainy day fund. Just be proactive on that. The other thing we really need to take care of are our police and fire people, our first responders. They are what help us and help keep us safe and keep our city where it is some place that people really want to live and visit. That being said, I appreciate all your help, and please, please take to heart what the people are asking from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last up is Kurt Myers.
Kurt Myers, 1890 Mercer Parkway, apartment 2104. Good evening. If I do have a voice, I prefer a tax rate decrease to a 12-month 50% reduction to household-based water rate. I'm an apartment renter, and our rent's already sky high. The apartment complex owners just pass on the higher taxes to us. Talking to the leasing agents at our complex, folks are not releasing due to skyrocketing rents. I can control my water consumption, but if I have a say, I'd like to see control on taxes and spending. We need to be a pro-business for a larger tax break, or larger tax base, and I would think businesses would want lower tax rates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion by Councilmember Roman,
Second.
a second by Councilmember Williams. Is there any more discussion? Seeing no one requesting to speak, I'll ask you all to mark your vote at this time. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Next up is our public hearing. I-1 is a public hearing to receive comments regarding proposed redistricting maps for districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just want to get straight to the vote.
Pull that up. We're going to pull the maps up.
Pull the maps up.
No, I think we're just,
I have 2 things on citizen comments.
you get 3 minutes to speak during citizen comments on all the items. Okay.
Yeah, we're just going to have them available if people are anticipating.
Council meetings. Yeah, council.
We're just going to make sure all the maps are pulled up, and then we're going to get right into public comment portion of the redistricting.
Mayor, those who signed up for citizen comment, they get their time, but if they also signed up for...
I'm going to need you to speak into the microphone, but yes, if they signed up for both, they will also get their 3 minutes on that. Yep, I've separated them out. We're good to go.
I wasn't told where these, we're going to need to pull these. Let me ask where they are. Okay. So, those three. I can move those back and forth at your request.
Just have those up for reference.
Yep. Okay, so we have all three maps pulled up for reference. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the public comments portion. First up is Sydney Parsons.
Sid Parsons, 1735 Woodington. I'm in the 55 and up complex of condos. To clarify, the western part of Farmers Branch is mixed housing, owners like myself, renters, single-family homes, townhouses, etc. I am speaking in favor of maps 8 or 9 and opposed to map 7, not to split up the Mercer Crossing community. Since pretty much all of Mercer Crossing is new, we of course have some different concerns from much of the other neighborhoods in Farmers Branch, and I think we should remain as a unified district. Now, I met Omar Roman at a rally north of downtown, and from what he's said and written, I have a lot of respect for Omar. I want to keep him as my council representative. And I very much trust him to listen to and take action for all of the constituents in District 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Rodney Thomas. Rodney Thomas. Frank Thielen.
I'm Frank Thielen. I live at Epsfield Road, 12935. I just am another citizen that also believes that Mercer's Crossing is an entity that should have its own representative and its own, because it's got its own concerns. I have friends that live there, and it just didn't seem to me to make sense as much as the 8 and 9 did. So I'm just voicing my concern that I'm not sure why they're splitting up a neighborhood that's totally intact and has a future, and it just didn't seem right to me. I was wondering, and also it looks like to me the information I had, they already had the right amount of residents to make up a district if you don't mess with it too much. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Joseph Riegel.
Joseph Riegel, 13647 Greystone Drive. I've been here for about 7 years, starting on year number 8, but been active for the last 1.5 years. My thoughts on the 3 maps is that I love the geography, I love the way this laid out, but you all haven't given me enough information to make a decision. And my other life, I was a business analyst. I analyzed data, and there's no data here. Like for instance, in Plan 7, District 1 today has 7,210 people. What's it going to be in the new map? And more than that, how many residents are being moved out of District 1 and how many are moved back into District 1, and for each of the districts like that? Because what I'm looking for is how many residents are being impacted by these changes for each of the maps, maps 7, 8, 9. And I would suggest, no offense to Mercer Crossing, but which map will give us the fewer residents impacted by changes? Because, I'm in Richard Jackson's district. I'll be moving to David's, and I'm fine with you, David, so that's going to be a win-win. But I was a little bit irritated, not big irritated, but a little bit irritated because I worked for Richard and trying to get him elected, and now we're moving. But to try to keep the irritations down, let's pick a map that reduces the number of residents that are being moved. And that becomes very objective. It's no longer subjectivity. Just add everything up, and there's your answer. There's your map. The other thing I was going to suggest is that in the next several years, or next 10 years before the next census, Farmers Branch will be growing. Where will it be growing, and how many more residents will be coming in? So maybe bake that into the map scenario, so where you anticipate more growth. Maybe they're a bit light today, but you're building that into the future. So those are my thoughts. And I do not envy any of you what you're doing. Good job.
Thank you. Next up is Harold Froelich.
Thank you, staff. I'm really not a sorehead. I just came up here to really help you guys and give you some historical things. I studied all of these maps. I attended one of the meetings. I don't see how your citizens, which I think it was a great idea to have citizens involved in this, they created a collage of circumstances that couldn't have been more upside down than if you'd have just swapped 2 for 1, 4 for 5, 3 for 1. It appears that you've disrupted voters in virtually every district. Now, what that does historically, when we first had to go to the district method for years, and I'm talking 4 or 5 election cycles, we had people show up to vote, and somebody would say, well, it's not your turn to vote. Now, that may be on the citizen, but I think the council, if you guys would sit down with the consultants, come up with some ideas for the minimum plus or 5% or whatever those numbers are. Then when you come up with the lines with the least disruption from the current districts, send a letter to the people. There's a voter roll. The city council has changed your voting district. You will from henceforth be in District X. So that would inform people. You can send it to the voters' rolls. People may or may not read it, but there has got to be a better way than splitting these districts, moving district lines 8, 10, 12 blocks. And I think the council and the mayor could do a better job working with the consultant than the collage of the citizens created. And it's your responsibility anyhow, so take charge of it. That's my idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Mike Harrison.
Mike Harrison, 3706 Ridge Oak Way, Farmers Branch, Council, Mr. Mayor. It doesn't comply with the fifth, I appreciate that 15 citizens of FB, 3 appointed from each district, led by former City Councilman Bronson Blackson, whose charge was facilitating, not recommending new districts, yet himself at the first meeting provided 2 maps along with attorneys and consultants with the assisted mapping software, spent countless hours navigating the process of redistricting, which is mandated by federal law and must comply with the Farmers Branch Charter, case law, and the Voting Rights Act. The commission mission, as per resolution council passed, was to recommend district maps, recommend, not decide. Their recommendations were 7 maps to consider, presented to council to make their decision. Council had a study session. Councilman Jackson, utilizing mapping software, created additional maps that were in compliance, which we are grateful for his work. A decision of this magnitude with ramifications lasting for a decade demands careful examination with available data. Info was considered by council in the sequence outlined in the resolution. Council together studied all maps, created and chose 3 finalists, among them 2 new maps 8 and 9, as well as map 7. None perfect. They changed every district. The goal is to follow the law and the charter. Without a doubt, map 9 best meets all criteria. Map 7 is not acceptable. Number one, it does not comply with the FB charter rule. Communities of interest should be maintained in a single district, and attempts should be made to avoid splitting neighborhoods. It disrupts districts 1 and 3 by dividing the Mercer Crossing neighborhood that just elected Omar Roman to District 1. If there is a duly elected council member in the district, it should not be dissolved, which this map does. It has no multi-family composition, which all districts need. It was created for planning for future growth in specific areas, which is not a criteria set forth for redistricting. And people with no expertise in population planning, and furthermore, was denounced and ruled not germane by the consultant on Zoom. Maps 8 and 9, conceived from council work sessions, as per city charter et al., avoids disrupting communities of interest and splitting neighborhoods. Map 8 divides communities of interest in 5 streets, where neighborhoods across the street from each other are in different districts. Map 9 only disrupts on 3 streets, which is shorter. Both maps 8 and 9 comply with the City Charter and Voting Rights Act. Boundary disruptions are minimized, results in 2 minority and majority districts, restores communities of interest, which are now divided today, i.e. Brookhaven Club, Raw Hat Park, and Glenside. 15 seconds. Uses major streets and creeks as natural dividers, except for 2 small areas, sharing multi-family composition, which we all need. Therefore, map 9 is the best choice as it disrupts splitting communities of interest and splitting neighborhoods. There are rumors that someone sent this back to the committee. This is a travesty. You have to follow the adopted processes. Sending it back violates the process.
A few more seconds, Mr. Harrison.
Set forth in this resolution. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. As we had kind of talked about at our last meeting, wanted to definitely hear from the public before having any more. Well, hold on one more second. Bronson Blackson, I know you signed up to speak. Is there anything you wish to say? It's going to be there if you're going to do it. Okay. All right. So, at least hear from the public, their thoughts, what they're thinking on these maps and different things that we need to weigh and consider. And how do we want to look at this tonight? Do we want to potentially task the Charter Review Committee to come back and maybe look at a few different maps, evaluate the extra 2 that have been created, 8 and 9, that they have not yet seen? Is there a different map that we want to potentially look at tonight, or is there some other decision? And so, with that, just kind of want to open it up for discussion, and so see where everyone's at after hearing from the public. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor. I do think it's a good idea for us to pull the commission back together. They did a lot of work on the maps before, and their input is valuable and important to this process because it will be set in place for the next 10 years, right? So it's important, I think, that they come back now with all this additional input, information, and understanding, and hearing from the residents, their thoughts. They can include that then in a final review. I recall that in our last meeting there might be some challenges with the rules around pulling the commission back together. Or?
We looked into it, and the way that the commission was set up, the wording was when their work is done. And I think their work is done when we kind of say it's done. So technically the commission can still meet and come back and review. We've also alerted not only the chair, but all the commissioners on that committee as well, that their services might be needed again, so that it's not a surprise to them. So I think they're willing and able to come back together and meet. I know several of them are here tonight listening, so that kind of helps as well. But if that is the wish of council, we can make the recommendation, send it back to them, have them evaluate the maps a few more times, come back to us with one of our suggestions is hopefully another unanimous kind of approach from them to allow us to weigh in and review that as well, which also would come with another round of public comment. This isn't going to be the only one, so just want y'all to be aware you will have another bite at the apple based on what does come back, if anything. So
very good. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Merritt?
Yeah, I would, I would simply concur with the idea of sending the new maps back, allowing the commission to have the opportunity to weigh in on their experiences. That's how it was set up, the recommendation to have them come forth with recommendations. The decision is made here, as it was already stated at the podium, but allowing them to have the time with the consultant and making sure that we position ourselves as best we can to minimize impacts, but to address all of the facets that are laid out in that charter document. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else have any comments, or everyone kind of in agreement? We'll kick it back to the commission and let them take a look at this.
I'm in agreement with that, and you know, we've talked about this, we've discussed it, we're still in the process of hearing from the public, and I think that'd be appropriate to go back to the committee, if we can reconstitute them and let them do this in a very thorough fashion, looking at all of these maps. And again, they've spent about half of a year already, so I think they're best suited to go through this one more time with a fine comb and then bring us back that.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Land, did you have something you wanted to add? No, you're good? Okay. Well, it seems like the consensus here is to move it back, so former Councilmember Bronson Blackson will kick it back to y'all and let y'all bring it back to us. But because this is a public hearing, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second.
I have a second by Councilmember Williams. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is our regular agenda items. J1, consider approving a motion to place a proposal to consider adopting a maximum property tax rate of 0.589 on the City Council agenda of September 20th, 2022. Schedule a public hearing on the proposed maximum property tax rate for September 20th, 2022 at 6 p.m. to be held at City of Farmers Branch City Hall Council Chambers located at 13,000 William Dodson Parkway, Farmers Branch, Texas 75234, and take appropriate action. Mrs. Evans-Jones.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Sherelle Evans-Jones, Director of Finance with the city. I don't have a ton of comments for this item in particular. I just wanted to state that the 2021-22, excuse me, I'm in this year. The 2022-23 proposed budget was provided to council and the public on July 27th. That document remains available on our website for public review. We held our budget retreat last week and are following up on comments, et cetera, that have been received from council. The item that you have before you is to set what would be a maximum rate. Doesn't mean that you are precluded from considering any rates that would be lower than that. And the item that is before you would schedule a public hearing for September 20th at our regular council meeting at 6 p.m. The budget that was provided was based on a 58.9 tax rate that would be maintaining the existing tax rate for the current year that we're in. And I just wanted to also add that as we have gone through our review of the budget, many of the facts and figures that have been provided to you as council and to the public are based on average property values, and you could easily get different results if you are selecting different valuations. So I just wanted to add that, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions at this time? Councilmember Roman.
Sherelle, and to be clear for those who are here watching and listening, this is only to set the maximum, so this doesn't mean that we're taking a decision today. Is
Agreed.
That right?
That's exactly what I was stating in my comments as well. Agreed.
All right. We don't have anyone signed up to speak to this item. It is marked for action, so if there's no further discussion, look for someone to make a motion.
I have it up. I'll go ahead. I'll make a motion to approve scheduling a public hearing and a proposal to consider adopting a maximum property tax rate of, here we go, Sherelle, I'll get it right this time, $0.589 on the City Council agenda for September 20th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Both meetings will be held at the City of Farmers Branch City Hall Council Chambers, located at 13,000 William Dodson Parkway, Farmers Branch, Texas, 75234. And at that time, we will take a recorded vote.
I have a motion by Councilmember Merritt.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Driscoll. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask you all to mark your vote at this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, it just came up, okay. It's up now, mark it. Motion passes unanimously. Next is J2, consider approving resolution number 2022105, establishing a moratorium on the tree stump enforcement. Based on conversation in study session, I think we kind of looked at potentially providing a moratorium until the end of the year so that we can just revisit it one more time. But first, we want to get through the budget stuff, obviously, which is way more important than that. But with that, is there any other discussion from council on that point based on what was talked about in the study session? Go ahead.
Mayor, I'd simply remind those that are listening that the moratorium only applies to stumps, that the code enforcement was really focused on addressing the dead trees that were from the wind event. That'll still be in scope. And so this moratorium is only addressing the stump issue. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we were looking at an end of the year timeframe.
Correct.
So 12/31 for the moratorium. That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? We don't have anyone signed up to speak to this item, so with that, I would move to approve Resolution 2022-105, listing December 31st, 2022 as the moratorium date.
I second.
I have a second by Councilmember Williams. Any more discussion? Seeing none, ask you all to mark your vote at this time. Motion passes unanimously. Next is item K, take any action necessary as a result of the closed executive session. We have two motions. Councilmember Driscoll, I'll start with you first.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the city manager be authorized to negotiate and sign contracts and such other documents that are reasonable and necessary to sell to the Farmers Branch Local Government Corporation for the purpose of resale to Brian and Christine Capener, and/or assigns the property described as Lot 1, Block 10, Valwood Park Addition, number 27, third section, also known as 2957 Longmead Drive, for a purchase and sales price of not less than $245,000, with the resale of said property to be subject to a restriction agreement requiring construction of a single-family residence of not less than 2,800 square feet of air-conditioned space with an assessed value of the property upon completion of construction, inclusive of both land and improvements, to be not less than $605,000.
I have a motion by Councilmember Driscoll.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Williams. Is there any more discussion? We don't have anyone signed up to speak. I don't see any council members requesting to speak at this time, so I'll ask you all to mark your vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have one more. Councilmember Williams.
Y'all are not nice to me tonight. Okay, thank you, Mayor. I move that the city manager be authorized to negotiate and execute on behalf of the city one or more agreements and any amendments thereto and any related instruments substantially in accordance with the following terms and conditions. 1, a purchase and sale agreement for the sale of Tract A, generally described as a portion of 2427 Carrick Street, 0.9 acre surplus property included in the 12,700 North Stemmons, collectively referred to as Tract A, to the Farmers Branch Local Government Corporation for the resale of Tract A to PG Investco LLC and/or its affiliated companies, the developer, for the development of a mixed-use project on Tract A consisting of a minimum 6-story building, 4-story multifamily podium over a 2-story structured parking garage consisting of approximately 200,000 square feet of multifamily space containing approximately 275 multifamily units, approximately 440 parking spaces, approximately 200,000 square feet of space, and 9,000 square feet of retail space on the ground floor, collectively the project, for a purchase price of $2.75 million with an economic development grant from the city in the amount of $2.75 million to be provided at the closing of such transaction, provided the developer undergrounds all distribution utility poles, excluding transmission line, and the construction of certain infrastructure and construction of the project, demolition of existing buildings, together with a restriction agreement requiring the developer to construct the project on Tract A. 2, one or more economic development agreements on behalf of the city with PG Investco LLC and/or its affiliated companies for the project, which may include a tax abatement agreement pursuant to Tax Code Chapter 312, which provides 10 years of 75% abatement of the real property for the Tract A, an agreement pursuant to Tax Code Chapter 311 to provide 10 years of annual grants equal to 25% of the real property tax for the project, and an agreement to provide a waiver of 50% of the development permit fees for the project. 3, commencement of the construction of the project to occur within 6 months after the site plan and development approvals following the closing of the developer's purchase of Tract A, and completion of the construction of the project to occur within 26 months after commencement of the construction of the development.
I have a motion by Councilmember Williams.
Second.
Yeah. Second by Councilmember Merritt. Is there any more discussion? We don't have anyone signed up to speak. So with that, I will ask you all to mark your vote at this time. Motion passes unanimously. With no other business to conduct, I will adjourn tonight's meeting at 6:56 p.m. Everyone have a good night.